Like it or not, games are heavily dependent on attaining that holy grail of a high Metacritic score. This whole idea of dictating quality through an aggregate number does have its upsides, but a major downer comes from tons of great games being completely overlooked. No other console library experienced this sort of "it's amazing" or "it's the worst thing ever" mentality more than the Xbox 360, mainly because a furtive gaming populace was still getting broadband connections, experimenting with social media, and carving an identity out of mainstream entertainment overall. The 360 remains Microsoft's best console. Just look at those blades. And with that in mind, I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 severely underrated Xbox 360 games that deserve a second chance.
But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done.
Number 10, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Without a doubt, one of the most unique Spidey titles of them all, Shattered Dimensions let you play as 4 different Spider-Men, all voiced by fan-favorite voice actors. Spider-Man Noir took on stealthy traits in 1930s New York. Ultimate Spidey was more of a hack-and-slash affair thanks to his symbiote. Spidey 2099 was full of acrobatics, and regular 616 Spidey kept a healthy mix of web zips and melee. Shattered Dimensions may not be as refined or as deep as the Batman Arkham franchise, but its clunkiness is easily countered by great variety in gameplay, alongside an engrossing story. One that drew in all of the best bits from the Spidey mythos and put it all under one roof. Number 9, Call of Juarez Bound in Blood. Developed by Techland, who you'll likely know from Dying Light, Bound in Blood tells the tale of 3 brothers who fought for the Confederacy during the American Civil War. This somewhat sets the tone for the game, as neither Ray nor his brothers are particularly likable characters. They're greedy, immoral, and none too bright, but the story makes for a worthwhile tale regardless. Bound in Blood featured a unique approach to combat in that the brothers that you could control each had a different set of abilities. One could dual wield, the other could use a lasso to climb the environment, among all sorts of other things, letting you achieve objectives in pretty cool ways. If you're in the mood for an arcade-style shooter with great gunplay, be sure to check out not only this, but Call of Juarez Gunslinger as well. Number 8, Red Faction Guerrilla. Red Faction Guerrilla is the beautiful story of one man and his sledgehammer, and one of the most beautifully anarchic game engines you've ever seen. Honestly, thwacking the living crap out of everything left, right, and center in this game is a spectacle to behold. The open world may be sparse and somewhat rote, but beneath the surface lies a truly inventive shooter that combines all the best elements of science fiction with the greatest parts of third-person combat. Oh, and if you get tired of trading bullets, you can hit someone so hard with a sledgehammer that they go flying through a nearby building. Done. Number 7, The Saboteur. You might know Pandemic for the original Battlefront games, but they also made a little-known title called The Saboteur, an open-world actioner where you play the role of a resistance fighter in France during the height of the Nazi occupation. Using a color palette heavily reminiscent of 2005's Sin City, noirish tones are supplemented by gashes of red in occupied areas of Paris. The color only changing once you've removed the SWAT sticker and dispatched the various soldiers within. It's all very stylish and holds up pretty damn well today. The third-person shooting and climbing elements weren't the most refined, but for what it is, The Saboteur is an underappreciated gem that should have done way better when it first came out. Number 6, Splinter Cell Conviction. Deviating massively from the stealth tropes of the original trilogy and Double Agent, Conviction struggled to find its footing amongst the die-hard Splinter Cell fandom. The storyline is definitely Conviction's strongest element though, as it departed from the Bond-esque plots that had dominated the series in the past, replacing it with one that was far more character-driven and personal. Conviction's most contentious element was its rebooted stealth system, but within the context of the game, this more aggressive, multi-headshot nailing approach made perfect sense. Sam Fisher was less a shadow-clinging ninja assassin and more a one-man army hellbent on revenge. It made sense he'd do away with all his old protocols, and all of that's not even to mention the phenomenal co-op campaign, one that ends in one of the coolest ways I've ever seen. Number 5, Mafia 2. Perhaps one of the best sequels of the last gen, Mafia 2 improved on its predecessor completely, creating a fully realized city oozing with 1940s and 50s character. Superbly acted and offering brutally fun gameplay, 2K put their own spin on the open world formula and crafted something that took heavy inspiration from films like The Godfather and Goodfellas. As it stands, Mafia 2 suffers a little bit from repetition, but the story, gameplay, and strong characters all contribute to something that at this stage, you've probably already had a friend recommend you by now. Number 4, Sniper Elite V2. The sheer satisfaction of taking the time to line up the perfect sniper kill is always great whether you're online or off, but it's even better when you crank up the realism. Taking on the role of an OSS operative deep behind enemy lines in World War II, Sniper Elite V2 has you navigating sprawling urban centers, engaging intense firefights that are won before you've even pulled the trigger. How? Because planning is just as important as execution, and when that plan goes accordingly, it's simply a spectacle to behold. Players have to take gravity, wind, and distance into account to make sure their shots stay true. And the kill cam that displays the effects of your handiwork? It's all out testicular warfare in the best possible way. Number 3, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Now, the world cries out that Spider-Man's 2004 movie tie-in was the absolute best he's ever been, but those people have never played Web of Shadows. Upon its release, Web of Shadows was criticized for repetitive gameplay and lackluster visuals, but honestly, it's one of the best Spidey titles around. Brilliantly letting you switch to symbiote Spidey at the touch of a button for a different set of abilities, each suit has its merits and flaws, but both are essential in order to progress through the story. Web of Shadows also plays host to a plethora of other Marvel characters, with the likes of Wolverine, Moon Knight, and Luke Cage all being given a great chance to shine. Although Insomniac Spidey looks to be the Arkham to his Batman, Web of Shadows is the best open-world webhead sim available right now. Number 2, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. Developer Ninja Theory's superb retelling of 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West is marvelous on every single level. At its core, Enslaved is about characters Trip and Monkey navigating the post-apocalyptic remnants of Earth. The first thing that stands out, however, is just how visually striking everything looks, taking the usual post-apocalyptic aesthetic and turning it on its head. Instead of a world devoid of life, we have one where nature has tried to reclaim everything in the midst of a man-made disaster. Third-person hack-and-slash combat, intricate and intelligent level design, and a great script. You'll only regret that you hadn't tried Enslaved sooner. And number 1, Batman: Arkham Origins. Now, a list on the most underrated titles just wouldn't be complete without Arkham Origins. Ignored and purposefully overlooked even by Rocksteady themselves, mainly because it wasn't created by them in the first place, there's simply far too much that Origins does well for it to never get its due. Introducing new enemy types and mission scenarios, emphasizing the Dark Knight's detective aspects, after Arkham Asylum, it's the most compelling and pacey of the franchise in terms of pure storytelling. Now, that twist might have been divisive, but what it gave us was an utterly fascinating look into the origins of the Batman-Joker relationship, something that factors into the series' entire overarching storyline. Any launch day bugs or glitches have more than been ironed out, and you can completely ignore the multiplayer mode if you like. If you can do all of that, then Origins is most definitely worth another go.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.